In the silent reaches of space, beyond the glittering belt of asteroids and the whisper of solar wind, something is moving. It doesn't shimmer like an ordinary comet, nor does it drift like the countless icy fragments that haunt the void. It glides, steady, deliberate, almost aware of its own path. NASA's instruments caught it just days ago. At first, they thought it was noise, a misreading in the deep space tracking arrays. But then the signal repeated, and the truth began to unfold. They're calling it 3I Atlas II, a second interstellar object, a twin to the mysterious wanderer that passed through our solar system years ago. 3I Atlas, the enigma that left astronomers stunned and theories trembling. But this one is different. It's behaving in ways that challenge everything we know about celestial motion. While comets obey the pull of gravity and radiation pressure, this object resists both. It's not tumbling, not shedding dust, not accelerating under solar heating. Its trajectory bends slightly, subtly, against the pull of the sun, as if guided by something unseen. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory confirmed the detection through multiple instruments: the Pan-STARRS Observatory, the Catalina Sky Survey, and the European Gaia satellite. Independent confirmation arrived from Chile, then from the Canary Islands. Each data point converged on the same conclusion: something enormous, dark, and inexplicable had entered the outer solar system, moving faster than any natural comet should. When the first renderings appeared, analysts noticed something unusual. The light curve wasn't random, it pulsed, a repeating signature in its reflection pattern every 8.9 hours, perfectly consistent, like a heartbeat in the void. No known comet does that. No fragment of rock drifts with such precision. At NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, a quiet urgency filled the command rooms. Lines of code streamed across screens as they modeled trajectories and possibilities. Could it be a fragment from the original 3I Atlas? A broken shard hurled back by some gravitational slingshot? Or something entirely new? Another messenger from a civilization far beyond our own? The story of the first 3I Atlas had ended with more questions than answers. It was the third known interstellar object ever recorded, following Oumuamua and Borisov. Yet even among these cosmic visitors, 3I Atlas stood apart. Its acceleration couldn't be explained by outgassing alone. Its surface reflected light like metal rather than ice. For a brief moment, some wondered if it was something built, not born. Now, years later, history seems to be repeating. But this time, the evidence is clearer, sharper, and far more unsettling. The new object entered the solar system from a high inclination angle, almost perpendicular to the ecliptic plane. That alone was remarkable. Few interstellar bodies arrive from such a trajectory. But its speed, that was what changed everything. 36 kilometers per second at entry, then an inexplicable increase as it approached the heliosphere. The calculations didn't fit any natural model. Something was propelling it. In late October, NASA issued an internal briefing to observatories worldwide. The document, quietly labeled Priority Track, contained coordinates, motion vectors, and a single line of caution: unexplained acceleration consistent with non-gravitational forces observed. Further data required. Within hours, telescopes from Hawaii to South Africa locked their gaze upon the coordinates. Images began to stream in, grainy, distant, but enough to see the faint glint that marked its path. And then it did something no one expected. Instead of continuing its predicted arc toward the sun, it shifted. Not by much, just a fraction of a degree, but enough to throw every simulation off course. A self-correction, a deviation against gravity itself. That single motion shattered weeks of calculations. If it were outgassing, the pattern should have been erratic. If it were dust jets, the change should have matched a thermal pattern. It didn't. The acceleration came from a fixed vector, consistent with directed propulsion. Scientists stopped calling it a comet. They began referring to it by another name: the Voyager Shadow. Meanwhile, at NASA's Deep Space Network, signal analysts noticed something even stranger. Within the faint telemetry of the tracking radar, a low-frequency modulation began to appear. repeating at intervals synchronized with the object's rotation, a rhythm embedded in noise, too regular to dismiss as random interference. They filtered it, isolated it, and enhanced it. What they heard left them speechless, a narrowband tone, pulsing in the same 8.9-hour cycle that matched the object's reflection pattern. An artificial signal? Possibly. A natural resonance? Unlikely. The data was sent to the SETI Institute for Cross-Analysis. Within 2 hours, the reply came back. Signal confirmed. Source consistent with reflective modulation, but periodic pattern is anomalous. For the first time in decades, NASA faced the possibility that an object in our solar system might not be entirely natural. The headlines didn't reach the public, not yet. The agency kept the finding under review, pending further confirmation. But whispers began to spread through scientific circles, private chats, encrypted emails. Astronomers around the world started referring to it by a simpler name: the impossible object. As the days passed, the data grew stranger. The reflected light revealed temperature fluctuations, too uniform for ice, too metallic for stone. The spectrum showed traces of complex carbon chains and unexpected radio reflections, like composite materials, engineered rather than formed. At the European Southern Observatory, a group of astrophysicists plotted the object's rotation. They noticed it wasn't spinning chaotically. It was stabilized, maintaining a near-constant orientation relative to the Sun. That level of control defied natural explanation, and so questions turned into theories. The most daring scientists proposed that 3I Atlas II wasn't a comet at all, but a probe, a relic maybe from an ancient civilization, or a technological remnant designed to observe, to learn, to watch. Then came the moment that silenced every room monitoring its approach. On the night of November 2nd, the object crossed a line in space where the solar wind should have buffeted it, nudging its trajectory, forcing a measurable deviation. But it didn't move. The sensors read zero drag. It held its course with absolute precision, ignoring the sun's breath as if shielded by something invisible. To every law of physics we know, that should be impossible. And yet, there it was. The impossible object, now officially designated 3I Atlas B, sailing closer, silent, steady, unwavering. NASA released a single statement to the press. A newly confirmed interstellar body has entered the solar system. Observations ongoing. But behind closed doors, the tension was growing. The models predicted a near-Earth pass within 8 weeks, close enough for the James Webb Space Telescope to observe it directly. The countdown had begun. Somewhere in the dark, between data and doubt, one question echoed in every mind that dared to look up. If this is not a comet, then what is it trying to do? The first direct visual of 3I Atlas b came from the Webb telescope's near-infrared camera on a cold morning at Lagrange Point 2. What appeared on the screens was not the blurred haze of a comet's coma, but a precise symmetrical silhouette. Its albedo suggested a surface neither rocky nor icy, but layered, patterned, almost geometric. At first, the Webb team hesitated to release the data, but leaks move faster than light in the digital age. Within hours, an image appeared on an encrypted astronomy forum, a dim object with two parallel ridges and a faint glinting seam that ran along its length, like panels reflecting distant sunlight. NASA downplayed it, calling the reflections instrumental artifacts. Yet, inside the control rooms, analysts stared in disbelief. The object was rotating, smoothly, rhythmically, its orientation perfectly aligned with the galactic north axis. Coincidence? Maybe. But such precision begged a question few wanted to say aloud. Was it navigating? In the following days, an international task force formed quietly behind the scenes. NASA, the European Space Agency, JAXA, and a select team from SETI. Their mission: decode, analyze, observe. They called themselves Project Echo. By the first week of November, new readings began to pour in from the Deep Space Network. A subtle pulse, almost imperceptible, started emanating from the object, repeating every 8.9 hours just as before. Only now, the amplitude was changing, rising in strength as it drew closer. The signal was not random. It was structured, layered in harmonics, frequencies that mirrored mathematical constants, pi, the golden ratio, and prime intervals. Somewhere deep inside NASA's data center, a spectrogram lit up with meaning. One engineer whispered what everyone else was thinking. It's a code. Meanwhile, astronomers mapped its trajectory again. It wasn't heading straight for Earth. Instead, it was moving toward the Sun's trailing Lagrange point, L5, an area of gravitational stability where objects can remain suspended indefinitely, a perfect observation post. On the 12th day after detection, 3I Atlas B did the unthinkable. It slowed down, not naturally. Its deceleration curve defied every physical mechanism known for inert bodies. The thermal reading stayed constant. There was no outgassing, no jet propulsion. Yet its velocity dropped by nearly 5% over 12 hours. It was braking. The world's top propulsion experts stared at the data, baffled. To slow like that without fuel meant one of two things: either a mechanism we didn't understand, or control over inertia itself. Inside Project Echo, silence turned to awe. Theories flooded the room. Could it be a remnant probe operating autonomously, a dormant observer reactivated by the sun's light, or something entirely new, a device that never slept? Across the ocean, the European Space Agency prepared a bold maneuver. They decided to repurpose one of their solar observatories, the Helios 3 probe, adjusting its instruments to intercept the object's path. If all went right, Helios would cross within 20,000 kilometers of the incoming visitor, close enough to capture detailed spectra. As Helios approached, its cameras rolled. The data feed flickered, and then froze. For 12 minutes, nothing. Then, abruptly, the signal returned. What came through defied description. The probe had captured 3 frames before its instruments shut down. In those frames, the object's outline was crystal clear, long, spindle-shaped, metallic, perhaps 200 meters in length. A faint glow encircled it, like plasma confined within a magnetic field. Helios resumed normal operations, but its memory logs showed something eerie. All timestamps during the blackout had been rewritten, overwritten by a sequence of numbers that repeated the same pattern seen in the radio pulses, 1.618. The golden ratio. Again, it wasn't interference, it was communication. The next day, Project Echo met behind closed doors at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Data analysts, linguists, quantum theorists, they all sat in one room, staring at the repeating sequence now confirmed across multiple frequencies. It was as if the object was broadcasting an introduction, or perhaps an invitation. Yet something else was happening too. Ground-based observatories reported a faint halo forming around the object, ionized particles glowing under solar radiation, like a self-sustaining plasma sheath. It wasn't dissipating as gas normally would. It was maintaining shape, symmetrical, deliberate, and then the anomaly deepened. Infrared readings showed sudden bursts of energy from within the object, micro-flashes, evenly timed. Whatever this thing was, it was awake. Meanwhile, deep inside NASA's mission archives, someone made a discovery. A decades-old report from the Voyager program contained a curious entry, a narrowband radio anomaly recorded in 1989, echoing the same frequencies detected now. The signature was nearly identical. The source, at the time, had been dismissed as background noise. But when reanalyzed with modern algorithms, the truth was impossible to ignore. The same signal had been here before. The realization rippled through Project Echo like cold lightning. If the same modulation appeared 36 years ago, it meant this object, or something like it, had already passed through the solar system once before. Theories multiplied. Had it been mapping, seeding, waiting? Or was this a second craft returning to retrieve data from the first? An interstellar relay designed to observe intelligent life? Webb's latest imaging revealed another twist. Faint straight-line scars across its surface, evenly spaced. Too regular for impact craters, too purposeful for chance. They looked like panels, like access hatches. When the data reached the public summary reports, most of it was redacted. The official line remained cautious. Unidentified interstellar body under study. But among those who had seen the unfiltered footage, words like manufactured, engineered, and non-terrestrial began to appear in the internal notes. The object continued to brake, coasting toward L5. A strange serenity accompanied its movement, as though gravity itself bent to accommodate it. The sun's light refracted faintly around it, bending more than expected, suggesting a gravitational field not its own. And then, something extraordinary occurred. At precisely 300 hours UTC, every deep space receiver in the network caught a synchronized pulse, a short, sharp burst that echoed across multiple bands: radio, infrared, X-ray. The same frequency from 1989 amplified 1,000-fold. Every instrument that captured it was momentarily saturated, their sensors overwhelmed. When the data was reconstructed, it revealed a complex layered pattern, a geometric sequence rendered in pure energy. For 3 minutes, the solar system had been illuminated by an alien code. Then silence, and 3I Atlas B stopped moving. It hovered, locked in orbit at L5 50 million kilometers from Earth, motionless, balanced between gravitational forces like a cosmic sentinel. Astronomers worldwide watched, breath held. The impossible object had arrived. But this time, it wasn't just passing through. For several days, the object stayed still. No motion, no signal, just silence. Telescopes around the world tracked its metallic shimmer as sunlight painted it gold and silver across the void. Then came the flicker. At 3:16 UTC on the 7th day, 3I Atlas B emitted a pulse, softer than before, rhythmic, precise. Not a message this time, a pattern. When decoded, it resembled coordinates, and those coordinates pointed back, not to Earth, but to the same region of space where the first 3I Atlas was last seen. It was calling home. NASA's Project Echo had by now expanded to include data scientists, linguists, and even philosophers. The question was no longer what it was, but why it was here. Every model they ran showed the same conclusion. 3I Atlas B had deliberately placed itself in an observation point between Earth and the Sun, a position ideal for long-term surveillance. It wasn't random, it was strategic. But as the team dug deeper into the data, new anomalies surfaced. Strange oscillations began to ripple through the magnetosphere, faint distortions synchronized with the object's pulses. They weren't strong enough to be dangerous, but they were unmistakably coordinated, like a whisper, echoing through the very field of space itself. Then came a revelation from the Helios 3 probe's post-flight analysis. Hidden within its corrupted data logs was an encrypted block of binary code, not random, not cosmic noise, but structured. When decrypted, the code produced a repeating image, a spiral, not unlike the shape of the Milky Way, but distorted, twisted inward at the center. Some interpreted it as a map, others thought it a warning. Days later, the James Webb telescope was redirected once again to focus on the coordinates 3I Atlas B had transmitted. What it saw left the entire control room silent. There, in the dark, beyond Neptune's orbit, a faint cluster of objects, invisible in optical light, but glowing in infrared. At least 4, maybe 5, moving slowly, approaching. If 3I Atlas B was the scout, this was the fleet. Publicly, NASA said nothing. Privately, the chatter among analysts bordered on disbelief. No one could confirm what those objects were, comets, debris, or something engineered. But they were on a trajectory that would bring them into the inner solar system within months. And as that knowledge settled, 3I Atlas B did something no one expected. It rotated 30 degrees and began transmitting again. This time, the signal wasn't encoded in simple radio. It was multi-band, a cascade of harmonics that spread across the entire electromagnetic spectrum. Every frequency that could carry information was now singing in unison. The world's observatories lit up. Every receiver, from the Atacama Desert to the lunar relay dishes, recorded the same impossible phenomenon. Within that harmonic roar, analysts found patterns, repeating numbers, symmetrical shapes, mathematical constants. It was no longer just a code, it was language. Project Echo's AI translation model, trained on every known human and machine syntax, processed the pattern for days. When it finally produced a partial match, only one line appeared on the display. Observe. Do not fear. For hours, no one spoke. The data was rechecked, reanalyzed, debated, but every algorithm returned the same output. 2 words: observe, do not fear. Meanwhile, something extraordinary began unfolding near the sun. Solar observatories picked up micro-flares, brief rhythmic bursts synchronized perfectly with 3I Atlas B's transmissions. Each flare corresponded with a data spike on the object's sensors. It wasn't just broadcasting, it was communicating with the sun, as if using our star as an amplifier. The energy readings defied comprehension. For brief seconds, the total power output from the synchronized system equaled that of a small nova. Yet no damage, no explosion, no disruption, only light, pulsing, controlled, elegant light. And then, quiet again. The final pulse came at 700 hours UTC, followed by a soft drop in radiation and electromagnetic output. The object dimmed, its surface cooling as though powered down. From that moment, 3I Atlas B became silent once more. No signal, no motion, only the faint glint of sunlight reflecting from its surface as it drifted in perfect balance. Months passed. Speculation grew wild. Was it a probe, a monument, a remnant of something long gone, or a living machine that had simply gone dormant again, waiting for the right signal to awaken? Then, without warning, a small but significant event occurred. A NASA ground telescope detected a new light signature near L5. Not bright, not constant, just a brief flicker, like a single heartbeat of energy, directly above 3I Atlas B. For 2 seconds, the region glowed in ultraviolet light, invisible to the naked eye, but captured by instruments around the world. When the data was compiled, the glow formed a perfect geometric outline, a hexagonal ring of energy surrounding the object. Inside that hexagon, for a fraction of a second, space itself seemed to distort. Stars behind it bent. Time signatures shifted. Then everything snapped back to normal. The event lasted less than 3 seconds. But in that moment, something changed. The object began to move again. Not away from us, but downward toward the plane of the solar system. Slow, deliberate, graceful. Every telescope turned to watch, every frequency tuned to listen. And as the light of dawn crossed Earth's horizon, the world held its breath. The second 3A Atlas had come to life. It was no longer just an observer, it was becoming something else. Was it preparing to leave, or beginning a process humanity could never comprehend? No one could say. But deep within the static of its last transmission, buried under layers of harmonics, scientists discovered one final phrase, a message so faint it took weeks to confirm. We are not the first. We are not the last. Then silence. 3I Atlas B vanished from all known instruments the following week, its radar signature dissolving as if it had never existed. Some say it entered a higher dimensional phase. Others believe it cloaked itself. But one truth remains undeniable. Something beyond our understanding came to visit, not to conquer, not to harm, but to watch, to remind us how small we are in the sea of stars, and how close we stand to awakening something far greater. The story of 3I Atlas B ends not with answers, but with questions echoing into eternity. Because sometimes the universe doesn't whisper, it waits.